today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about how to measure where you are so you can make the changes that you want to get where you want to be in your marriage. If your marriage was a business, would it be profitable or would it be bankrupt? A new masculinity is a whole and complete man who embraces all of who he is and who is present emotionally and who is feeding into the marriage bank. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today we're talking about know yourself, save your marriage, or the reckoning before the rise. So I'm going to ask you a quick question here. If your marriage was a business, would it be solvent? Like, would it be profitable? Or would it be bankrupt? And I'm not talking about money here, and I'm not talking about what size house you have. I'm talking about emotionally. Is your marriage growing emotionally or is it going bankrupt? And you already know the answer to this question, but just in case you're not sure what I'm talking about, let me paint the picture for you. If you're leading parallel lives where you're not talking very much and you're just getting the job done, you're going backwards. If you're fighting all the time, you're going backwards. Unless you see measurable emotional success, growing closeness in your marriage, you're going backwards. You're going to bankruptcy. The only way to change the solvency of your marriage is to start with yourself. That's what we talked about in the last episode. We can't change them, right? For this series, we're putting our inventory of them, all the things they're doing wrong, all the reasons why we fight, all the reasons why we don't talk, all the reasons why we focus on our work instead of our marriage or focus on the kids instead of marriage. We're going to put all that on the shelf because we're going to start with us, right? First, we need to take a look at ourselves. We need to take an honest inventory of ourselves. We need to see our own profit and loss, our own balance sheet in order to gauge where it is that we're investing energy that we shouldn't be, and where should we start investing energy that's going to pay off. All right, that's what this is about. You're doing all the right things. You've been providing, you've been helping, you've been working hard, and still she seems distant, resentful, not as interested as she once was. Well, what if the problem isn't your effort, but the emotional balance sheet you've been ignoring, the background of your marriage? If the emotional balance sheet is, when you were in love, the emotional balance sheet was building up and up and up, right? Because all you guys were doing was feeding into the emotional balance sheet, feeding positivity. You were crazy about each other. You saw each other for who you were going to become, not even just how great you were in the moment, but who you were going to be. And then maybe you got married and had kids and things got very real very fast. And in love is a limited time offer, by the way. Some people get divorced when in love wears out and then they get married again, and in love wears out and they get divorced and get married again. The repeat marriers are usually looking for the high of in love, and they don't understand why can't they stay in love? Well, nobody stays in love. The studies show it wears off after 2 to 3 years. But that in love phase, you're investing in the relationship. And when you get married, what you're saying is we can have a business, an emotional business together that shows up in healthy, well-adjusted children who are happy and successful and who make a difference in the world. We can show up together and make a difference in our family. We can show up together and make a difference in one another, help each other to succeed. That's what that marriage is about, right? But somehow, in the day-to-day logistics of caring for the kids, paying the bills, making sure you had the right car, putting in a new dishwasher, whatever. Somehow, in the day-to-day logistics, being generative and feeding the emotional balance sheet of your marriage got just swept aside. It just wasn't that important. You started to take it for granted. We did that already, and we're never going to be in love again. So what's the sense? Well, the sense is if we don't keep paying in to the marriage bank and we instead become more distant, instead have disagreement and argument, we actually withdraw from the marriage bank. You see, marriage is a long-term investment. Do you know your numbers right now? Do you know the state of your marriage? I guarantee you does. I guarantee you she's taken an emotional inventory of your marriage, and I guarantee you she's not happy with it. How do I know? You're here. Maybe you're her and you're here. Well, you stay tuned. I'm going to be framing things in terms of men. This particular series is really for men, but I'm the husband whisperer. So I want you to listen. If you're a wife listening to this, I want you to listen, or a woman who's thinking about getting married, I want you to listen to this and take in a man's point of view on how a relationship can work when men embrace their emotional intelligence or their feminine side or their ecological nature, whatever it is, because that's what this podcast is about. It's about the new masculinity. The new masculinity is a whole and complete man who embraces all of who he is and who is present emotionally and who is feeding into the marriage bank. Every relationship has emotional assets: trust, safety, affection, intimacy, shared vision as individuals, shared vision for the marriage, shared vision for the household, shared vision for the children. And every marriage has emotional liabilities, old insecurities, strategies our families taught us that don't work, resentment, feeling emotionally neglected and alone, poor communication, isolation, control, manipulation. When liabilities become greater than assets, your relationship is in the red. Pretty much every couple I work with comes to me because their relationship is in the red. Their liabilities outweigh their assets. Let's talk about Brad and Gwen. Brad is a doctor and Gwen is a lawyer, and they're both very invested in their individual careers. They've got a nanny for their child. They've got a dog who they love very much. And when they get upset, Gwen goes out to girls' night and Brad goes out with the boys. And when Gwen goes out to girls' night, she complains about Brad. And when Brad goes out with the boys, sometimes they go to nudie bars. Sometimes they watch football. They complain about the wives. And when Brad goes out with the guys, they say things like, happy wife, happy life. I'm just going to do what makes her happy. And then I'm going to get my pleasures in my time. And when Gwen goes out with the girls, she talks about, why am I in this? Why won't he wake up? What did I marry Brad for? What's going on here? Why can't he support me in my business? Why can't he show up more with the kids? And they're saying, yeah, Brad sucks. And what happens here is when we associate with people who support us in our lowest selves and our lowest thoughts, we get dragged down and we go back into the relationship with a negative perspective. And so I'm planting a seed with you here that you need to upgrade who you're spending time with, whether you're Brad or Gwen today. You need to upgrade who you're spending time with. You need to spend time with people who want for their marriage what you want for yours. You need to spend time with people who have succeeded where you are currently hoping to learn, I'm going to call it. You want to associate with people who are on the same mission, have the same ambition for their family that you do. You want to associate with people who are taking honest, courageous assessments of where they are so they can measure where they are and move to where they want to be. So you need a personal inventory. And the reason why you need a personal inventory and not Gwen right now is Gwen needs to do that on her own. You can't help her with that. You've been taking her inventory all along. She's been taking yours. One of the reasons why the things you say to each other hurt so much is you see each other's weaknesses and you're really good at pushing those buttons. You can't fix what you don't track. And when somebody hands you your liabilities like a weapon, they don't hand it. When they beat you with your liabilities, it's very hard to take in. You tend to push it away and not receive it. You can't deposit in your marriage if you haven't taken stock of what you have. So the first inventory I want you to take is the balance sheet of your marriage. I want you to sit down and just write out the following things. Number one, how much time do we spend alone together, period? And I'm not sure that brushing your teeth at the same time counts as alone together, but if you need to count that, count that. Number two, how much time do you spend alone together talking about your relationship or your family in a positive way? How much time do you spend alone together? Number 3, this is part of it, is without a cell phone or a device. Number 4, when you use devices, do you use them to escape or do you use them to come closer together? We're going to do another series on this, like in July or August. So you don't have to go too deep with that one, but I just want you to start thinking about it, planting a seed for July and August. Number 4, when you're alone together, are you having positive interactions or negative interactions? Number 5, when you have negative interactions, what percentage of your alone time does that take up? Or number 6, if you're just not having a lot of alone time together, the chances are you're probably avoiding number 5. Maybe you had those fights and you just don't want to have them anymore. The next thing I'm going to ask you to audit is yourself. What do I mean by that? We all have strengths and weaknesses. We all have skills and latent abilities. And so I want you to take an inventory of yourself. It might help to start with making a list of the things she's told you are wrong with you. Even if you don't completely believe them, just write it out. You might even ask her, hey, Gwen, would you please, I don't know what your wife's name is. Gwen, would you please make a list of all the things that you think are wrong with me? I promise you that if I'm hurt, I won't take it out on you, because you probably are going to be hurt. Let's be honest. You can't promise you won't be hurt. Would you just make a list of all the things that are wrong with me and tell her, I'm in the process of taking a personal inventory and I want to honestly assess who I am today. You might ask her to write out your strengths too if she's interested. She may be so angry at you that she won't do either. I don't know. There's a process that you can do that will help you to take this inventory. It's a process that comes out of a 12-step program. And it's where you make a list of all the resentments you have, all the people. And the way that you do it is you list the name of the person, you list the situation and the emotion. It brought up my anger, my fear, or whatever. And then you identify, well, first the name, second the situation, third the feeling it brought up, and fourth, the defective character in you that it might represent. And the principle here is that anytime that we're angry with someone, it's because underneath the anger, we feel hurt in some way. And we usually feel hurt because they've poked on some inherent weakness in who we are. So an example would be, I'm mad at my wife because while I'm doing this podcast, she's doing an exercise class outside the door, even though I told her I'd be doing the podcast. And the defective character that brings up is my sense of pride. How could she do this to me? Is part of the feeling. I'm a little. There's some self-centeredness here. Doesn't she know how important I am? That kind of thing. And if you're not sure how to do this and you want to learn more about it, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to me, and I will email you this process. I have a 1-page inventory process it explains this in full and gives better examples even than I am now. So if you'd like some help with this, right, we're in a tribe together. We're moving forward together. I'm working on my marriage just like you. And all the men that I work with are working on their marriage. And we're all at different stages. And some of us have had more success than others. And the whole idea of being in a tribe of people who are like-minded is that we help each other along. The ones who are further along help the ones who are further back. And if you are the most far back right now, I promise you in a week or two, you're going to be helping the next guy who comes in. That's how this works. So reach out to me and I'm happy to give you this. I'm going to give it to you. For real, give it to you. I'll just email it to you. rich@richinrelationship.com, because you're part of my tribe now. Every man walks into his marriage with tools or weapons. I also want you to take a look at your emotional strengths, your patience, your presence, your decisiveness. I want you to look at your innate abilities, the innate abilities that you bring to your work, and how do you bring them to home? Or maybe you're not, and maybe you do. I want you to list your learned skills. Maybe you've learned how to de-escalate conflict. I'm a trained mediator, for example, so I'm really good at de-escalating conflict or not being reactive. And also, we're going to talk about those liabilities. You're going to list those liabilities we talked about earlier. I want you to get that this is not casual. All right. You're going to spend some time in meditation and prayer. I want you to really invest some time and get that you're going to give up something for this. It might be football with the guys. You get that you're going to give up something for this. It might be watching some screen time. Get that you're going to give up something for this and that it's worth it. And you may want to do some journaling, or you may want to talk to a professional about it or a spiritual leader. But I want you to really invest some time in this inventory because it is key. Remember, what you don't measure, you can't change. And the first thing we need to change is me. The first thing we need to change is ourselves. The truth is, if your emotional balance sheet stays in the red, your marriage stays in crisis. If your emotional balance sheet stays in the red, it hurts your children to see your marriage in crisis. If it stays in the red, your marriage eventually may dissolve. And that's very emotionally expensive, not to mention financially expensive, and a disaster for the vision that you and your wife created. Until you know your emotional landscape, you will continue to lead in reactivity instead of being a proactive visionary leader. You're going to overcompensate or shut down. Owning your inventory, strengths and weaknesses, is how you stop chasing approval and start showing up as a real partner. It's also the path to self-respect from yourself and earning the respect of your partner. When you demonstrate that you have taken the measure of yourself and that you are managing your weaknesses and that you know your weaknesses, when she says to you, you're always trying to control me, and you say, sometimes that's true. She'll go, wait, what? Instead of, what do you mean I'm always trying to control you? When she says, the other day when you went out with the guys, you weren't telling me the truth. I know you did something that you don't feel good about. And you say, yeah, it's true. It wasn't what you think, but I don't feel good about it. Do we really need to talk about it? I'm not going to be doing that anymore. But if we need to talk about it, I will. It will blow her away. This is what the road of the personal inventory will take you to, a place of integrity where you do what you say that you're going to do, a place where you start to come into alignment with yourself, and you will be unshaken by her stuff, unshaken by the strategies she learned that don't work, because you will no longer be engaging in the strategies that you learned that don't work. And knowing who you are is just the beginning, because next you get to find out what you stand for. And that's going to be the next episode. We're going to talk about uncovering your core, your values, your guiding principles, the things that you define as moral and ethical for yourself, the things that are going to guide you in decision-making processes regarding your family, that are going to help you to show up as a man, a husband, and a father with your kids, even if she doesn't completely agree with you. So stay tuned to Rich in Relationship, because we're going to go deeper still. In the meantime, have an amazing day and a wonderful tomorrow.